no one should have to worry about their private health information being discoverable on a dadgum Google search.
Well, he didn't say dadgum, but yeah.
You're listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, where HIPAA and humor collide to make learning fun. Your delightful hosts are Donna Grindle and David Sims. Relax, HIPAA help is on the way.
Michelle Lombard from Georgia Spine Orthopedics, and you're listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast.
Thank you for that intro. My name is David Sims of HIPAA for MSPs and Security First IT, and joining me is Donna Grindle of Carden. Yes, it's the lady sitting at the table. Inside joke.
That's funny. It's getting worse the more time we spend together, isn't it?
Yeah. So we had the boot camp. I know we talked about it before, but I just always think it's funny that people are like, "Oh my God, it's Don and David," and we're like, "What?" Because we're looking at them going, "Oh my God, it's people at the boot camp."
People are really listening to the podcast. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, we're more excited that they showed up to the boot camp than they're excited to meet us.
Honestly.
But no, we had a good time.
Right. So speaking of the boot camp, we do have a big announcement.
Yeah, we're ending the boot camp. No more.
Oh, geez.
I'm just kidding. No email.
Please don't. You have to answer anyone that comes in about that. I'm just sending it to you.
We are not doing any more this year.
No, we are not.
So yeah, wasn't wrong.
So we are doing 2 in 2020. Exactly 2.
Yep.
That's it. Y'all have no idea how much this takes out of us. Just the scheduling of it is insane. So our spring one will be March 24th to 26th, 2020.
Yes.
That one's going to be in Tucker. But we are currently in active discussions about having one somewhere over there on the West Coast. We are actively discussing it.
Yes, which means for you East Coast people, you will have one opportunity to have one close to you.
Yeah, we'll probably get all the people in the East Coast that said that, oh, well, I'll go to the next one or whatever, and never came to the Atlanta one. They're 5 miles away. They'll go to Phoenix or Vegas or wherever,
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. Wherever we can work it out. That's, a trip. Oh, well,
Yep.
Keep in mind, it's boot camp. We don't play.
Yeah, so we did, how many would end up with this year? 3, 4?
We did 3 this year.
3. So we did 3, and I think they went well, but I also think that people have too much of an opportunity to catch the next one.
Yeah.
So
when they spread out, it's like we'll have a bigger one, a smaller one, a bigger one, a smaller one. We never know. So here you go. We should have the dates for the fall one soon, and then we're done. That's it.
Yep. But for
Don't
now,
ask us anymore. For now.
March 24, 25, 26.
And we're doing the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday thing again because people were able to go back to their office and have like a mid reentry burns. But it seemed like it did give them a minute to gather themselves, then have the weekend to chill and then get back to normal work. So, it was varying feedback. No feedback was bad. So we're going to try that again. And it lets you have a long weekend on one side or the other if you also want to. Anyways, so March 24th, 25th, 26th, in Tucker, Georgia. See you there.
All righty. So that brings us to our Patreon supporters. Da-da-da-da. Yeah. So I do think we're going to move that piece onto our website and do it ourselves. But I do want to shout out to John Dubinsky, the great JD, George Fenton, the guy who just loves picking at me.
And I love that about you, George.
But I still thank you for the gift. And then Kenneth Sims, no Ken, I don't think, but who knows? I might have kids or whoever else out there that I don't know about.
Oh, God.
But yeah, thanks guys. Really appreciate the support. And for those of you who want to support the podcast, be looking for us to add that ability in the coming weeks. If you want to donate any amount to help cover the cost of me putting up with Donna, we appreciate it.
Yuck, yuck, yuck.
All right. So we're going to talk about some listener feedback.
Yeah, so we do have a listener survey out there. Feel free to pop in, tell us what you think, any ideas. We do it anonymously. If you want us to know it's you got to put it in the comments at the end. But it was funny. The survey that came through, a note was provide better show notes distributed in the RSS feed for podcast players. So here's how we had it set up, or I have it set up, is that on the podcast players, it puts a link to the website where all the details are, because we do it as a blog post on the webpage. And remember, I ain't got time for that to do it again on a separate place where we do the feed. And it's just the way we originally set it up. And it was too much of a pita to switch it once we figured out how to do things. But ironically, what's funny is that I had switched the website feed to be a summary instead of a detail. And then the very next week, this quote comes in. So this note comes in. So happenstance or someone noticed that I'd done it. I switched it right back. So if you want the show notes in a RSS feed, get it from the website at helpmewithhippa.com/feed, I think. We'll get you what you need.
Cool. All right. Then we had some people that posted some reviews recently. Thank you for posting reviews. We had a little dry spell there where nobody was doing that.
Yeah, at least not on Apple Podcasts.
That's true, because we do sometimes find them elsewhere.
Yeah. So thank you for anybody that's posted them. But there's a reason, you'll know in a minute, that when these kind of popped up on the alert and I didn't get a chance because of everything that's going on to bring these in, and then another one came up. So on November 1st, we got a review. You can read it on...
I can read it.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Yeah. The Help Me with HIPAA podcast is always aligned with the current issues concerning HIPAA and compliance in today's business world. I always learn something new, and I'm always entertained by Donna and David. If you need to know about HIPAA and compliance, you need to listen to this podcast.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that.
Great review.
Yes. So, but on October 1st, and I don't know if this reviewer did this because they know how funny I'll think it is. Because if so, hilarious. If not, still hilarious. Because anybody that can poke at David, I love it. So, you want to read it? Or do you want me to?
You go right ahead so you enjoy it so much.
Yeah. In so many of the episodes, I feel that these two understand all too well the pain of dealing with businesses these days who make up their own rules or try to circumvent existing policies when it comes to protecting data, regardless of it's HIPAA related or not. Donna and Dave's, he hates being called Dave. Donna and Dave's podcast cohesiveness makes for an awesome show every time. Would love to catch up with them at a conference. Glad they are successful and willing to share so much of their experience and knowledge. They never disappoint, so give them a listen. That was so much fun for me. First of all, great to know that you get so much out of the podcast, but even better that you called him Dave. Awesome. Okay, so now we got to get to, we got to quit playing.
That's better than what my wife said about us. We called one day and, hey, it's Donna and David, double D. And she said, yeah, y'all the two biggest boobs I ever seen. I was like, okay.
Yes, she did say that. Anyway, let's get the business taken care of and cover today's topic where we talk about the OCR enforcement is picking up at the end of the year. So they popped 2 more in while we were at the boot camp.
They always wait till the boot camp.
Something always happens during the boot camp.
All right, we're going to get to listening. But before we do that, let's hear a word from our sponsor. Does your business work with medical practices? As a medical practice business associate, do you realize that if you have access to patient information, you have to follow the same HIPAA rules as your client? Call Carden today at 678-292-5001 so they can assess your privacy and security practices to help ensure you are protected and prepared. Visit cardenhq.com to learn more.
2/3 of small businesses that experience a cybersecurity breach end up closing their doors within 6 months. Cyber criminals are targeting your practice and coming after your most sensitive data. Visit us online and schedule a time to talk about what you can do to protect yourself, your patients, and your practice. Our website is securityfirstit.com. That's securityfirstit.com.
All right, Donna, you want to take us down the road of the OCR enforcement policy?
I knew you were going to do that. He asked, could we do this before we started? So I knew. He's like, can I call it okra? Okra if you're from the South.
Well, it's because, you know, the HICP is hiccup, and then they got the hic scrim, and I'm like, we're just going to start making words for everything.
Oh, yay.
You know, you take, but you take words and you shorten them to acronyms, and now we're taking acronyms and making them words. So I don't know.
That is right. What? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anyways, so OCR did come out. So our boot camp was November 5th, 6th, 7th. They announced one on the 5th and the 7th. And I'm getting those alerts because, you know, I'm geared to do that. And I'm like, well, crap. I ain't got time to listen to this and read all the details. But we have now reviewed it a bit more. So let's, the first one, and as always, they both have information that is helpful if you go beyond the headline. Mm-hmm. The headline to me is just, you know, same old, same old. But beyond the headline, there's some really interesting stuff. And I was reading this first one, and then all of a sudden, way down in there, I said, there's a special note. Mm-hmm. So the first one, $3 million and a 2-year cap. So, you know, that wasn't the thing. What's interesting is, let's just call him a triple dipper. How rude. Not a double dipper, a triple dipper. So in the press release, Director Severino, that, you know, David gets to pretend he's somebody important when we read these. So hit it there, David, about his quote.
Yep, I get to pretend I'm Roger. All right, so here's what Director Severino had to say. Because theft and loss are constant threats, failing to encrypt mobile devices needlessly puts patient health information at risk. And he went on to say, when covered entities are warned of their deficiencies but fail to fix the problem, they will be held fully responsible for their neglect.
Okay.
And I think that's exactly how he said it.
Well, I did copy and paste right out of the press release.
No, that's the same tone and inflection in his words.
I see. Tone and inflection. Okay, moving along. That quote really does, it points out the core issue, which is, you know, the bottom line is you don't have a breach and then years later have another breach for the exact same issue. That you did nothing different and you couldn't show that you did anything different. So this was started back on February 15th, 2013. Mm-hmm. Involving an unencrypted USB drive with PHI. It's lost. And so they reported on May 6th, and OCR says, we're going to be looking into that. June. So they told them in June 2013. So that's happening. And we've talked before about how long things take. And, you know, in this time frame, we've gone through multiple transitions of directors. And every time that happens, there's a big delay in any of the, you know, resolution of these big cases. That's one of the reasons it takes long is it's constantly changing who's doing what. Mm-hmm. You know, you get a year or two here, and then you start to ramp it up, and then there'll be a change. And all right, but before they resolved that investigation from the 2013 incident, they had submitted another on January 26, 2017, 4 years later. Mm-hmm. They reported a breach. In this one, there's probably some crazy details in here. An unencrypted, and they made sure they said personal laptop of one of the resident surgeons on staff was stolen from one of their, you called it treatment centers. And of course, there's PHI.
Why is there anything on a personal laptop that's business related?
Well, and it's also, a resident. So, they're supposed to be being trained on HIPAA better than anybody else, these younger ones, right? But no. And we're talking 2017. So, almost 3 years ago. But still, by that time, we knew better than to not encrypt things. But here they are, 4-year time frame, still having stuff not encrypted. Okay? 4 years. So you think that, that is bad enough. But wait.
There's
more. They didn't start. And this is that point that I read down in there because, most people read that first part and they're like, okay, so that's what he's talking about when he says, when you're warned you have a deficiency and you fail to neglect it or fail to fix it, then you are responsible. This is the part that was down in there. In 2010, they reported a breach due to losing an unencrypted flash drive, and OCR provided what they call technical assistance when they looked into that case. So whenever they say technical assistance and it was closed, what that means is they looked at what happened and they said, hey, you need to make sure you're encrypting things, right? And they said, we're going to do that. We're going to jump right on it. So, and then 3 years later, they had not jumped on it. And 4 years later, they still hadn't jumped on it. So it's not just 2013 to 2017. This goes back to 2010, a 7-year period where encryption was a consistent problem, a systematic problem.
Yeah.
So, the OCR is like, wait a minute, 3 times? We haven't even, you know what I mean?
Don't make me count to 3.
It's that saying, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
Fool me 3 times and we'll have a settlement.
OCR wasn't even finished getting on to them for, trying to fool them twice. And boom, they did it the 3rd time. Yeah. So, and, the cap. So you got the $3 million. And because they're saying, look, you were in this case, they use the word neglect.
Ooh.
When a lawyer uses the word neglect, that's important.
Yeah.
Particularly when it comes to HIPAA. So $3 million is the settlement. Who knows what their proposed determination was in that one?
Whew.
Because we got 7 years of failure to encrypt. And, they also didn't do a proper risk analysis, or if they did, it said every time you need to encrypt, and then they did nothing about it. They had no documented plans. They had no training. They did nothing.
Sounds like neglect.
Yeah. And so he used the word neglect, and we know that takes it to the top culpability.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So $50,000 a day or whatever. And it depends on how it's all looking at it. So because of lack of encryption, $3 million, and it could have been way worse, and that's why they agreed to the 2-year cap.
All because they didn't encrypt.
Well, not just that, it's that they didn't encrypt over a 7-year period where it was an ongoing problem. So it's important to note, when you have a problem and it caused a data breach, it caused a question, you need to make a change about how you're doing things. So that single piece was, the issue. They just kept having problems and did nothing, even though our OCR explicitly told them you need to solve this problem.
Mm-hmm.
And so the cap, of course, pretty standard, didn't do a risk analysis. Now you're going to do a risk analysis. You're going to have a risk management plan, policies, procedures, training, all of that kind of stuff. But then there was one that I don't recall seeing stated this way before. And it was singled out as a specific item which I would think, kind of goes in with the policies and procedures for risk analysis. But it specifically said that University of Rochester Medical Center shall develop a process to evaluate any environmental or operational changes that affect the security of URMC's EPHI. Well, how many times do we have to explain to people, when you have like a big thing going on, you need to do a risk analysis about it.
All the time.
And sometimes, we'll be talking to people and they'll tell us they just finished a big thing. And we're like, great, where's the risk analysis? What are you talking about? They say. But to me, that makes me note that they're now, hey, they're paying attention now to not only do you need to do them in a fairly regular basis, not once every 5 years or somebody that says you have to do it every year. There's no specific requirement. What you're supposed to do is do it when it's appropriate, and that's based on environmental or operational changes, or if there's been no changes, it's been a while since you did one.
Right. And we are talking about, like IT environment, just to be clear, not because of global warming.
Yeah, so, well, in some places that,
maybe that works too. But yeah,
that's what happened in Venice. It's going to happen somewhere, but
you can have environmental changes that are structural environmental changes. So yeah, you got to consider all that.
When you remodel a building, people do that all the time. Move, add knock out a wall and do a whole new section and open up stuff. You add in a new provider, you add in a new service, any of those things, you need to sit down and evaluate the privacy and security, issues. And it was it was a really good conversation that we had at the boot camp about how do you get to what was essentially the question essentially, how do you get to that culture of privacy and security? And the way you get there is every single discussion you have, you question whether privacy or security is impacted by it.
Right.
Or is it involved, or do we need to worry about it? So that it is a part of every conversation, every business decision. When you just make a point of doing it, even if the answer is continually no, everybody begins to think about it. So driving that decision, making it a conversation, that's how that changes. And that's how you start doing security risk analysis when you're supposed to. Like David says, every time he opens his mouth. So that one, couple big things. One, security risk analysis, not just, now. For all of you who had been investigated and you were given, quote, technical assistance by OCR, and then a letter that said we provided this technical assistance and closing the case, you better go pull that letter and make sure you did everything they said in that technical assistance.
Yeah, that one might be a good idea.
Yeah, because it's obvious. People don't do it. They're like, woo, we got off. Some take it seriously, others do not. So go back, pull them, and make sure you addressed every single thing in that technical assistance, because what they do, because they don't give you the technical details, but they tell you need to focus on this section right here. And what that means is you make some changes there.
They all take it seriously after the breach because they say so on our website.
That's right. Yes, we take privacy and security serious.
That's why we have a breach.
An abundance of caution.
Yeah.
Yeah, an abundance of caution. Yeah. All right, so that's the first one. So don't mess around. Get her done. And obviously, if you do it before there's a breach and you're not even under their radar, that would be even better. Because, $3 million, but this thing went on for years with the case. And trust me, there's resources that are getting sucked into that. All right. So here's the next one, which was kind of different. Because it involved, and it's one of those things where things changed in the middle of the investigation. So it's just one department that was part of, well, I don't know exactly how they classified it before, but it was, in Texas, the Department of Aging and Disability Services, also known as DADS, which is fun. Yeah. DADS. David's going to start making up words. That one's going to be pretty easy. All right. So URMC, you are on your own. It's a state agency that administered long-term care services for people who are aging and for people with intellectual and physical disabilities, which is what the title would imply. Department of Aging and Disability Services.
True.
Yes. So on June 11th, 2015, they reported a breach of 6,617 patients who had their information out on the public web. Yeah. Boom. So the story is that when they moved from, and they used the term private secure server, implying, okay, that was good, but then they moved to a public server, which, public cloud-based servers, basically what I think is going on here. But then when they did that, and I love this quote, because no matter how you put this, somebody screwed up, right?
Yeah.
A flaw in the software code allowed access to EPHI without access credentials.
Okay.
Okay, so that had to involve IT developers somewhere in there. It's not properly secured. Again, this is why you would do an SRA and develop checklists, and when you're moving things around. In fact, there is one of the things of making sure you back up and you do all this stuff if you're moving. And the director had a pretty blunt quote on this one too. He used the word neglect in the other one, which is very, very important to note. And this one, though, very blunt. Hit it, David. This one's so just like punch in face.
So in this quote, he says, covered entities need to know who can access protected health information in their custody at all times. No one should have to worry about their private health information being discoverable on a dadgum Google search.
Well, he didn't say dadgum, but yeah. I mean, seriously, I should not be able to look up my information on a Google search that's my healthcare information. Who would want that?
Mm-hmm.
And there's all these people. Well, I don't care. The time will come that you do. And if you actually looked at what information was there and what could happen, you would. Yep. So, it's a lack of education.
Yeah. Yeah. But, for those of you who don't care, there's a bunch of us who do.
Yes. We care for you.
I don't care for you, but I care about me myself. They're my information.
So with 6,617 patients, obviously that's well over the 500. They're on the breach portal, aka wall of shame.
Mm-hmm.
And that also triggered an immediate investigation. And so in the middle of the investigation, so that happened in 2015. In the middle of the investigation in September 2017, the whole department was abolished and just rolled into Texas Health and Human Services Commission, who is now, taking the punishment.
That was nice of them.
Well, and this is a point that people need to take out of here because, we always hear about people, well, we're going to merge or we're buying or whatever. And I'm like, are you auditing what's going on there to make sure you're not going to inherit some of that stuff?
Yeah.
And they're not looking at, they're auditing the books, but they're not auditing privacy and security. And you could be buying a built-in data breach that you discover. Yahoo, anyone? Bueller? Okay. So, this determination, so you got that piece, but there was also the fact that they explained that this was an internal reporting application that they used to complete reports required by CMS. Okay. So their entity had to track some data and create these reports by CMS. So somebody built an internal application.
Okay.
Warning, danger, Will Robinson. I mean, come on. You know right away. I work with developers and still, we worry about security. Yeah, but I need you to worry about it more. I need you to document that you worry about it. I need you, as one of them told me, I need you to eat your broccoli. Do it healthy. You're thinking of it. You're making decisions. You're not writing them down so that later we can make sure that we don't screw that up or we can prove that we were doing it. So you don't have that with so many people. I mean, I don't know about you, David, but how many times have you seen these spreadsheets that connect to 5 other spreadsheets and each of them have 20 tabs in them and there's formulas hopping all over the place?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
So, yes, you are smart and you have the power to build these kinds of things. However, that does not mean that there's security built into it. It does not mean that there's a capability of securing it properly. You don't understand necessarily all of those elements that, like access controls and all those kind of things, logging. So this thing, during this server migration, here's the quote, that they had been, quote, allowing an undetermined number of unauthorized users. Think about that for a second.
You don't even know how many users it was.
An undetermined number of unauthorized users to view the EPHI without verifying user credentials.
It's more than a few.
An undetermined number of unauthorized users. Bam. And with no login, it's just there. And the real kicker is somebody found it and notified them. They didn't find it themselves.
It was an undetermined person.
So there was no scan on that network, or it would have said, hey, what's on this?
Mm-hmm.
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 Yeah. So they get notified, and there's a list of all the things that were done wrong. And one was HHSC, the Health and Human Services Commission, which is what they call it, which is technically DADS, but the
HISCSI
failed to implement access controls on all of its systems and applications throughout its enterprise. We don't need to log into that. It's just for CMS.
Yeah.
They also provided no evidence that the application was capable of auditing user access after it was moved to the unsecure public server.
Oh, we don't need to know who's messing with it.
Yeah, well, because whatever they built it on probably wasn't capable of doing those things. Well, it clearly wasn't capable of doing those things where they put it. What I don't understand is it was probably secured on the original server using maybe Active Directory or something. I don't know. And there was a case similar to this with the meaningful use documentation a few years ago, where some tech guy says, "Oh, I can create an application that'll let us track those things," and they put it out there so everybody could get to it.
Mm-hmm.
Unauthentication, it's just nothing. So
but that just blocks convenience so much.
I know. Security's not convenient.
Why would we want to log in and do all that? Just Google it and get to it.
Everybody hates that.
I mean,
so
you want
getting closer.
Everybody wants access to their medical data. Why don't we just put it out there on Google?
Yeah. let me just search David and see what he's been up to. I don't want to know with the motorcycle wreck. And, you got too many broken parts.
Mm-hmm.
But the civil money penalty is what they went with. Because it's kind of like, we'll just take the punishment.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't put them, they're like, we're not going to go on a corrective action plan when it's a completely different organization, right?
Yeah. Now imagine it's probably one of those things where, it's not a segmented out part of the organization. So now you're having the entire organization having to do things that they didn't have to do before.
Yeah. So we don't want to go down the path of a cap, because that it would be impossible to try to, oranges to oranges, apples to apples. So they said, fine, we'll just do the civil money penalty. And they did take into account, who these people are serving, that it's a state agency. Because, again, they're not out to bankrupt you, but they are going to enforce the law. So, when they get into the fact that, all the things they did wrong, pretty much there were no controls on anything. It seemed that it was widespread.
Mm-hmm.
So with the civil money penalty, of course, they document how they calculated everything. And there's some of it that I don't know. I was studying it. But the net of it is they laid out, from the maximum penalty of $100,000 for reasonable cause. So they're saying, look, it wasn't neglect, but at the same time, it wasn't good. So they said the maximum penalty of $100,000, the 2013 to 2017, that's what I was looking for. So for each year, you get a maximum penalty. And there's something funky they did in 2015 because I think they were looking at from the 2013, a year from that, a year from that, a year from that.
Mm-hmm.
So, they hit access controls for a reasonable cause, lack of access controls, lack of audits. So they hit them like 3 times for $100,000 each of those entries. The lack of a proper risk analysis, all of that kind of stuff. That rears its ugly head often.
Yeah. I'd like to see one that says the risk analysis was great. They just failed in this other area.
Yeah, not deficiency in a risk analysis, right? And that risk analysis is a constant problem, and we've talked about them over and over.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody does risk analysis all day, every day, and all you want to do is write these things down.
Yeah, well,
That's it.
The part of the problem too is that there are so many people out there professing to do this kind of work for these people, and oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes the person, the entity is wanting to do a proper risk analysis and they're hiring somebody to do that and they're getting an IT security risk analysis, not a HIPAA risk analysis.
Right. And they're two very different things in many, many ways. They have some of the same elements, but a HIPAA risk analysis is going to have more than what most people. Number one, if your risk analysis doesn't evaluate security settings in your EMR, EHR, practice management, all that kind of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
then, okay.
Yeah.
You should see some information about that.
Yeah. You can get a improper risk analysis on Fiverr.
You can. Yeah. $25. So thanks for that one, Alex. That was a hoot. We get interesting things sent to us that's just not worth going down that path. But like we said with Eric last week, can we just publish what's not one?
Yeah.
Give us examples of these are wrong, because it's hard to do an example of what's right. But if you show me some that were wrong and you remove all the identifying indicators, you de-identify the data.
There you go.
Yeah, you remove all the identifying indicators of ones that you found deficient or wrong, and then show us what's wrong with it. That would work.
Yeah, it would be very helpful.
It would be night and day difference in people doing proper risk analysis. It's a issue that has to be addressed. And if we're continually not doing it, as Severino said, we can't make changes to it, but we can't get them to do what is there. We can't add more. If we can't get them to do step 1 properly, then of what's currently there, adding more doesn't help.
Mm-hmm.
So I would love if, we could create them. We could create them. That's all I'm saying. Because we have plenty of examples that people give us. Well, this was our last risk analysis. This spreadsheet, that was it. That was it. Nothing else? Just a bunch of questions? I'm sorry. Let me explain what a gap analysis is.
Yeah. We pay $5,000 for this.
Yeah. That's the ones I love where they pay, $20,000, $30,000 and all they have is some policies and procedures that they don't know what's in them.
Yeah, but
in fact, if you open the 3-wing binder that's in, moths come out.
yeah, but at least the person who did it says that they were an expert.
Oh, yes. Over a decade of experience in doing this. That stuff shouldn't be in a policy and procedure. I'm just saying. Anyhow, sometimes it's just the previous speaker. But it's hard to say how bad or lack thereof a risk analysis. We will not know for sure. But they did get dinged for it. And they only hit them for the $100,000 all the way through. So that's how they got to the $1.6 million, though. It's like, $500,000 here, $500,000, $500,000 for each of the 3 things that spanned years. So, and then $100,000 for the actual breach.
Mm-hmm.
For letting that happen without credentials. So keep in mind, those are multiple things. That one thing, 1.6 million, just in, and they're like, you have the right to appeal. No, we just struck a check. We spent enough time on this already.
Yeah.
Yeah. And but you could read between the lines on that in a lot of ways, which we are forced to do. And sometimes I know we're wrong, but when we're wrong, it's really a good idea what we came up with.
Well, I completely understand why they come up to the point of, I've spent enough time on this.
Yeah.
Let's just move on.
Yeah. So this brings us to 7 enforcement announcements from OCR in 2019. And, it's now back to above what the old totals used to be as far as the money that's brought in. I would expect, we're going to see more. This comes out in December, so probably between the time we've recorded this and when it comes out, there'll maybe another one. But, they often do 2 or 3 in December trying to get them done. And I personally am aware of a couple of them that they're trying to get done. And for one reason or another, whether it's, personnel or, paperwork or attorneys changing, there's a lot of different things going on. But, I'm quite aware that there are some out there that are really close. And if they don't close them by the end of this year, I think we're going to see a pretty active first quarter.
Mm-hmm.
But who knows? Because again, one little change is all it takes. Severino gets taken out, all bets are off.
Yeah.
You just never know. But the bottom line is, there's plenty of them out there for them to work with. It's like our OCR investigator that came to the boot camp. She said, I'm not looking for work. We've got plenty. I'm here to answer questions and, to give you, explain how we do things and that kind of stuff. But yeah, we did some things that made her eyes pop. That was funny.
Yeah. I think I'm going to apply for a job at OCR. I want to be an investigator.
No, I would just lose my mind.
I want to be an investigator. I want to get me a T-shirt. So when I walk in to these investigations, some T-shirt's going to be like, it's hammer time. I'm going to drop the hammer on somebody's face.
Stay out of my breeches.
I know. Because, us dealing with some of the back end stuff and arguing with some of these people makes me want to wring their neck.
Yeah. Yeah. I know you're having one of those weeks.
Yeah.
We couldn't even start recording until David vented about one of those problems. I mean, a lot of venting. And I was like,
yeah. Because if you're an attorney, you should know how to read the law better than the IT guy does. That's just a shame.
Well, no, not necessarily, because there's a lot of law.
I'm just saying the essence of the law should be able to be interpreted better by those in that field than those who aren't.
The HIPAA law mentions technical concepts that sometimes people don't get, but they think they do. And we run into that all the time. So, let's let David calm down before he gets up on his soapbox. We'll hear him moving the bots.
Well, I just want to say, if your response to me is, we've got thousands of other people who've signed this BAA, why are you fussing about it? I don't care about your thousands of other people who are wrong.
Yeah, the fact that it says, you're downstream, but it says that you're upstream, there alone is a problem.
Yeah, but I do have some vindication in the fact that their first email to me was, we will not alter any documentation. And then their next email to me was, we've made the changes you recommended.
All right. So I think we've beat these up enough. There are a couple of new little notes in there to pay attention to. The highlight would be, if you've had technical assistance, you better jump on it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be playing around. And, don't let them see you a third time.
True.
I always had that rule. I'd be very helpful in teaching. I'll show you the first time. If you come back and you need me to teach you again, bring some paper
and
a pencil, because you remember more when you hold it and write it down. And really don't come back the third time. I mean, when you do, we're going to have a discussion about why you're having problems. So, anyways, it helps them concentrate on the second time.
All right. That is our show for today, folks. Don't forget, see us at the boot camp. Coming up. I know, it's coming up. March 24, 25, 26 of 2020. Man, that's a lot of 20 stuff. So,
oh, no.
It's the year we
get tongue-tied. 2020, 2020.
24, 25, 26 of 2020. Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
So anyway, next year will be the year we make it all clear for you. You like that?
Yes, I do.
All right. So you can always check that out at thehippabootcamp.com. We'll make sure we get all that information up there shortly. So for Donna and myself, remember, the HIPAA is not about compliance. It's about patient care.
You've been listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, hosted by Donna Grindle and David Sims. The show created to help you with HIPAA. For more information or to ask us a question, visit our website at helpmewithhipaa.com. Neither Donna Grindle or David Sims are attorneys, and they do not offer binding legal advice concerning regulatory compliance. The information in this podcast should not be relied upon or construed as legal advice in any way. Consult your attorney for legal advice concerning compliance with HIPAA regulations.